Hey, Captain, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
I know you are very, very busy, but I do want to get some ideas from you. Just to let everybody know, I met you last year in Fort Worth. You were the head presenter with an awesome, awesome statement to all 500 female law enforcement officers that were there. And I was a presenter of a couple of topics. And then we talked in the bar that night. So that was pretty cool. That was
We
pretty.
did.
So, and you will be here in Dallas in a couple of weeks, as again, the guest speaker at our Women's Association organization group. So that'll be fabulous.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I love Texas.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? It's pretty
The
cool. It's
best.
kind of my home now. It's like this is where I've been longest in my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a neat place. It's a neat, I like that we are different. I like that we're different. And I like that we're friendly. I like that we're
Yeah.
known for friendliness and openness and acceptance. I like that quite a bit. But what I would like to do is read your very, very, very brief bio, if that's
All
okay.
right. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So, and I'm probably going to mispronounce it again, but Captain Heather Glogolich, did I do it right?
Glow.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Glogolich is a captain with the New Jersey Institute of Technology Police Department. You're also president of the New Jersey Women in Law Enforcement. So if I don't say it later, thank you so much for that. You are a wife and a mom of four. You are a jiu-jitsu blue belt, and I love the posts that you share about that. I love how encouraging and encompassing you are in that. It's like you don't just show all the glory of it, you show the struggle of it also, which is awesome. And you have over 20 years of law enforcement experience. You're an advocate for victims of crime, and you're a warrior for women and law enforcement. And obviously, as a coach for women, my target audience is women. But I really got to point out that with everything that you do for women, you're doing it for the profession of law enforcement. Because by helping women, we are helping the whole entire profession. And when we do that, we're helping our community. So sometimes it's referred to as trickle down. I want to say it's like splashing down. It's not just a trickle, it's actually a roaring down. And thank you very much. Even though you're in New Jersey and I'm here in Texas, even though I'm retired, I absolutely appreciate everything that you are doing.
Thank
I,
you.
is there anything you want to add to that introduction?
No, I mean, I just, it's taken me a long time to really grasp onto the significance of being a female leader in law enforcement, not just a leader in law enforcement, and taking on the responsibility of giving hope to others who don't necessarily have that role model or that mentor to think that anything is possible. Like, beginning of this conversation, you said, I'd rather introduce you as captain. And I kind of took myself back a little bit, right? I reverted back to, oh man, rank isn't everything. And I don't want to be that ivory tower person. But I see the significance of it too, because I didn't have anybody to look up to. There were no females in charge. A significant, and I think it was more finding, for me, I needed to find some quality, like quality women officers. That was a struggle for me. So yes, I give into that. I don't let my people call me captain though, unless we're on scene. It's Heather, because I'm a person, right? And that comes first.
Yeah, 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 definitely. And I have come to the realization, and I even made a public statement. I was presenting in New Orleans earlier in the year, and I stood up in front of a group of, I don't know, 300 women, and I said, I was one of those women who did not acknowledge that I was a female in law enforcement. And I started 34 years ago because I hired on in 89. And there weren't very many of us. And we would have never mentioned breastfeeding. We would have never mentioned our vests not fitting when we come back from having babies. We would have never mentioned the need for a bathroom. I mean, we just would have never said that. we wanted to do the same exact PT test, even though, and yeah, maybe when you're 23 and 24, but all these things we wanted to do, um, I wanted to do, and I refused to acknowledge that I was a woman and that I was just as valuable, but I had a voice and I needed to speak my voice. And I look back at all the missed opportunities. I look back at the times when something was said to me that was inappropriate, and I didn't have to like scream and holler, and I didn't have to run and file a complaint, but I could have looked at the individual and said, please don't say that to me. And that would have helped me. It would have helped that individual realize they were out of line, and it would have helped the future women. And I look at all that I missed. And so I love that there's women like you and are the women's associations that are popping up. I love it. I love it. And I don't want to be in the way. So when I stood up and said I was one of those women who wasn't fighting for what needed to be fought for, and I'm sorry, but I'm getting out of the way and I'm joining the fight, so many of the older women came up to me and said, girl, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I didn't know I was part of the problem. And that's really being harsh on ourselves, saying we were part of the problem, but we weren't part of the solution. But we were doing our jobs. We were doing our jobs very, very well. We were raising our families. We were promoting up the ranks. So we were doing what we needed to do. We just could have done a little bit more.
Yeah, but you only know what you know, and you can't do what you don't know to do, or that you don't think you have permission. And when you fight so hard to be somewhere, you'll hold on any way you can in order to keep it, especially if it's what you want. So I think that it's transitioned women in law enforcement from surviving this profession to really starting to thrive in this profession. And that's the difference. And that's why I think when I started in 2004, it was just such a different environment. I never would have thought that I would have had a platform to speak out against some of the things that I've endured, and some of the things that I brought on myself too. I was one of those women also. Don't send me to an all-female training. I've worked hard enough to be an equal. Don't separate me. And I just think it's funny that yesterday, we're obviously, today is Tuesday, August 27th that we're recording this. I don't know when you're going to put it out, but yesterday, Monday, August 26th, was National Women's Equity Day. And it was the commemorative date of when they allowed women the right to vote. Yet Black women weren't allowed to vote. They weren't allowed until 1965. And then we forget that in 1965, when the Civil Rights Act happened, that's actually when gender discrimination was banned. And, we had a lot of advocates pushing towards that. But we have that, and we have, regulations based on not allowing discrimination against people that are pregnant, and the need to allow women to be able to pump and breastfeed. And yet we're still struggling as women in law enforcement today in 2024 to even feel comfortable having the conversation about, hey, I got to work a 12-hour shift, and I know I'm the first female on the agency, but I'm coming back after 12 weeks and I'm trying to, breastfeed until a year. Like, how do I make that happen with a vest? How do I do this? How do I do that? And people just didn't talk about it because they, there's a couple schools of thought on this that I'm gonna just touch on briefly. I'm very, very lucky in New Jersey, and I come back and once I started traveling in the United States and really learning about the inequity in law enforcement throughout the world, I come to New Jersey and I feel so lucky because after a year, it's very, very hard to get fired. Once you're off that probation, they can't just fire you for any time. People don't leave and transfer because you're already getting either higher pay, and you can't transfer. You can't be given the opportunity to make more money if you go to another agency. Starting is very rare. And I go to other states, and they're at will states where you can be fired at any time.
Yes.
That makes it hard.
While you talk, I'm going to take some notes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not ignoring you. I'm taking some notes.
No, that's okay. It makes it hard for women to feel as though they do have a voice and that they can push the envelope, especially when they don't have people who support them in it. When you have a whole team of people that have one way of thinking, and this is the way we're going to do it because this is the way it's always been done, and you chose this profession, so you figure it out, you conform to us. Yet right now we live in a society where the only thing they're asking of law enforcement is to conform to them, but you're not doing it for the people that you're trying to recruit. So when we talk about things like diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we start to minimize the worth of women because of the changes that need to be made, I think it's so on point, because when we have women in this profession and we allow for our vulnerability and our femininity and our
empathetic way and our mothering nature, it allows men to be more in their feelings. And that's going to do things like allow them to be more empathetic and sympathetic and attuned to what they need to when they respond. But it also allows them to be more vulnerable with their mental health. And hopefully with that, we can start to, really work hard on ending the stigma of mental health issues, because the biggest fear in law enforcement, I think, is people having mental health issues and not wanting to come forward for fear of losing their gun and their badge. And so they just push it on down, right? And they don't do anything to help themselves be healthier, and they're worried about who they're going to talk to. And they just put all that into this backpack that we're given, and it gets so heavy to carry. So again, another great thing about New Jersey in comparison to a lot of other states is we push so forward on mental health. And in New Jersey, women in law enforcement, we actually have our own entire female resiliency police officer team that's trained for just women's issues: infertility, postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, body changes, weight gain, domestic violence, sexual assault, like all these things that innately are different for women than they are for men when they happen, regardless that they can happen to both. It's just nice to have those people to talk to. And it's, in a great state like Texas, you have a lot of women, but they're spread out, right? In the state of New Jersey, we have 500 women at our conference too, but we're a much smaller state. So you're seeing a lot more ability to link up women with women in order to help them.
So a couple of things that you've said on that, and it's kind of ironic. So I have one of my coaching businesses is for females, but primarily female first responders. But it does attract civilian women also, because my premise is you don't have to fight everything. But for female law enforcement, we fought to get our jobs. We fought to keep our jobs. We fought for promotions. We fought for training. We fought just to even get on a shit assignment, but you wanted it and you had to fight to have it. And you had to hide the fact that you had children, or that you had daycare issues, or that you wanted to get pregnant, or whatever, right? You had to fight, you had to hide all that. And so I have women, and I'm trying to help them understand that, yes, you are awesome. And it's good that we're scrappy. And it's great that we recognize when to fight. That isn't really a skill that helps you in your marriage necessarily. It's not really how you want to raise your children. It doesn't make you popular day in and day out, in just regular life, because, you start fighting everything and things that maybe aren't your fight, or that maybe aren't worth your energy, or that there's somebody else that's better prepared to do it. And it's shocking how many women fight every single thing in their life. Everything. Every single thing. Like even what kitchen table they're going to buy with their partner, right? And I'm like, why are you fighting? Well, I just fight everything. Why? Why are you still doing that? And I hate that we have women that we have done that to, or that we've encouraged it or made them think that it has to happen. Again, know when to fight. It's a great skill to have. But wow, there's some other times when conversation or stepping back or thought process would be or just letting it go. Letting it go. Again, not the big fights at work, not the big things in relationships, but just the smaller things in life. And then when it comes to kind of like being in the way, I've been very lucky, because even when I hired on in the Dallas Police Department, I was protected during my pregnancy. As soon as I told them I was pregnant, I was able to leave patrol. And to me, I did not want to be in patrol pregnant. I didn't want to risk my baby or my pregnancy, but I was put into a safer spot. And I was just so thankful. I was so thankful that I was still able to have a job and have my benefits and have all that stuff, that I didn't stop and think, this could be done differently. This could be done better, And I remember telling other female officers, shut up and go do your job. You have a job, be thankful, because I did know that women in other states were forced to be full patrol all the way through their pregnancy and didn't even have a job when they came back. Now, there might be laws that protect you, but we all know what can happen on that. So
Yeah.
I really like the fact that across the country, agencies are looking at how to better serve the female officers through their pregnancies, childbearing years, and still serve the department. Because that's where I thought there was a big disconnect. Just because we're pregnant doesn't mean we're not still like awesome first responders.
Yeah,
You used
absolutely.
to be you couldn't even promote while you were pregnant. I mean,
Yeah, and that's a topic that not many people talk about, especially when it comes to the choice. The choice is not the department's on whether or not you stay full duty or whether or not you move to a modified position. It's up to the woman who's pregnant. And I have to fight for that for people, because so many agencies will be like, well, it's what's in best interest of the baby as well. But it isn't necessarily, because especially when you're in an agency that doesn't have a modified duty option, and then you're not getting paid, and maybe you're the breadwinner, maybe you have the insurance, maybe that's not in there. And here we are having conversations about things that are our inherent rights underneath the law since 1964, right? Again, it's like, oh my goodness, it blows my mind that 60 years later, women who have really made this trailblazing effect, especially on a profession like law enforcement. And I say that because, but we're still at about 14%, right? We're still at that 14 to 16% population. I don't believe we should do things like lower physical standards for women. I think it gives us an unequal playing field when we start. I believe it's very much like college. If you have to have a certain GPA to get into a school, you need to have a certain physicality to be a cop. There's, but there's so much more that goes into it, and so many places that do it right, and so many places that do it wrong. So many.
And I have this conversation a lot with Jennifer, who Jennifer with Dallas, who's awesome sauce. And I have this conversation, and it's so easy to stop too soon in the conversation. So, like a quick example, agencies that don't allow a woman to have a certain shift or certain days off, because then they would not have a female on duty, right? So they don't give her the shift or whatever. And my first question on that is, what is the reason why they need her there? Is it to search prisoners? Is it to intake? I mean, what is the reason? That doesn't mean they get to make her do that. That means they need to get more women on the department, change policies, have an agreement with another agency. I mean, there's so many things that need to be done on that, instead of just stopping and saying, oh, make Sally do it. That's the old way of doing it, right? We were only there to search the prisoners. We were only there for, this or that. And I'm like, no, they need to actually solve the problem. We're not the Band-Aid. They need to solve the problem. And that gets some very interesting conversations going of what is actually the problem. What is the solution? Isn't always to let men do complete searches of women. The solution is get more women hired, get more women in, and well, that's we can't hire them. Well, then you have a recruiting problem, you have a retention problem. Solve that problem, and so it's not something that'll be fixed by Monday, but it's something, long term. So I know that you have so much to share and so much to give that we haven't even touched on when it comes to and I say we on purpose, who have been victims of domestic situations, whether it be violence or aggression, within police families, within police departments. I know you have all of that, and I would love to talk to you eventually about that. And everybody who's watching this can Google you, and they can find some fabulous, fabulous videos and statements. And it's like a gift of your soul to them. It's like a gift of your survival journey to them. And I think anybody can find some hope and some gumption and just something to think about. But what I really would like to ask you, if you would care to share on it, is what do you think our female first responders can do right now, today, no matter where they are in their career, that will lead them to a good quality future up to and into retirement? Because remember, we retire young. We retire with 10, 20, 30, even 40 years of living left. So what would you offer our female first responders in that arena?
I think there's a couple prongs to it, but I think the foundation is developing a growth mindset. And with that is the understanding of, a growth mindset is inclusive of not just the way you think, but the way you act, and putting yourself as a priority. we're not taught to do that ever. We were raised to put everybody else first. Going way back, our job was to raise a family, and everybody else came first. And that's, again, another reason it's so much harder, I think, to get women to transition into a role like law enforcement, where there's shift work and there's sacrifice, because there's this inherent guilt of putting our dreams first and building a life that we love living. But I mean, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So I always tell people, never let fear decide your future. Live today like it's your very last day, in the hopes of having a better tomorrow, and just really develop that growth mindset where you understand that everything is in order for things to be balanced, you have to work at balancing them.
Mhm.
And that's all of it. And it's never going to be perfect. Everybody always talks about this work-life balance. There's no such thing, right? You get 100% of a day, and what you put into it is what you put into it. You still get up 24 hours like everybody else. But if you think about it in terms of balancing it out and what's important to you and what matters, like, I can sit here and have conversations with women all the time, and some women will look at me and be like, you do so much for yourself. Like, what are you giving up for your family? I'm like, I'm not. I'm empowering my family to live their life that they want. I'm breaking generational curses of this owed life to somebody else. Like, I refuse to maintain relationships that don't help me live the very best version of my life. I have to put up with things in order to be successful. I have to keep people in my life for certain reasons, for professional reasons, but my personal life, no, I don't. And that's inclusive of my immediate family too. I'm lucky I have a great immediate family. But if I didn't, and I put myself and I've separated myself from people before in my family because it just wasn't what was great for me. I've stopped apologizing for the things that I want and I need. I started to understand that when other people question what I'm doing, it's because they fear that they would fail, or they don't want to see me succeed. And none of that matters to me. Other people's opinions don't pay my bills. I'm not intimidating. Other people are intimidated. And that's a them problem. That's not a me problem. Like, why should I play small so other people feel big? I refuse. And it angers me that it took me till I'm 44, because I know I'm going to say that with grace and patience, right? Because here I am loving my life at 44 and everything about it. I still love being a police officer. I'm thoroughly enjoying my children. They're just incredible. And we're getting ready for college with my senior, and my junior is about to drive on his own. And, I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I have an incredible husband. And while we're disconnected a lot physically because of all the things we do, we're always on the same page, right? There's no if there is miscommunication, we know how to communicate about it. However, with that came boundaries. And I think that really is a part of that growth mindset, because after my first marriage, I set rules for myself so it would never happen again. And a lot of that was boundaries. You will never call me a name. You can disagree with me, but you're never going to yell at me. We will never put each other down. We don't even really cross the line of like busting on each other. Like, we will, but it's very, very mellow. I never want him to feel like he's less than, and he would never want me to feel that way. So, I can bust stones with like the best of them. Like, I'm probably one of the biggest ball busters you will ever meet. However, I know that there's a time and a place, and I won't bust somebody's balls that I don't absolutely love, because I want them to know that it's coming from a place of love, right? It's like knowing where you are. I also would tell people to not stay in a place that is undeserving of them, because I've maintained space where I felt uncomfortable. I haven't questioned the narrative. I haven't pushed when I knew that I should, in fear of what other people would think about me and how I would be viewed. And so with this growth mindset, I've developed this rationale that I'm only in charge of what I do and what I say in the moment, and I'm not in charge of the outcome. And it's really, really allowed me to just be brave to do so much more, because when you focus on the journey and you let go of the outcome, then that really doesn't matter. And you can really start to feel happy in what you're doing in the moment. But yeah, I mean, I know that's a whole lot of stuff wrapped into one thing, but it really is under the umbrella of a growth mindset.
Awesome. What I have liked to say is, and I'm really big in people being debt free. So throughout my career, we were really, really lucky to bring a lot of debt free classes and training to the Dallas Police. Well, actually, Dallas City employees. but mostly Dallas Police Department. So we have a lot of debt-free officers. We have a lot of officers that are very close to being debt-free, and they've really changed that mindset. And so what I learned during that, and then going through my retirement, because while I was on the police department for 30 years, I have been retired for 4.5 years, which has flown by. I mean, just there's times I still like reach for my second phone and I'm still looking for, anyway. But one of the things that we have learned to try to stress to people is love like there's no tomorrow. Love like there's no tomorrow. But and live like there's no tomorrow, but in a way that is very cognizant of you do want a tomorrow. So make smart decisions with your money. Make smart decisions with your relationships. An example, these individuals, and when we talk about, stress and brain health and all that, how we're always looking for the high, right? We're always looking for that excitement, that way up here. So people start talking to people they shouldn't talk to. They start texting people they shouldn't text. Because they might be dead tomorrow, right? They got to live for today. So we try to say it's no. That's taking advantage of the sentiment of live like there's no tomorrow. You've got to protect your relationships. You need to be careful of your career. Live wild and crazy and free and fun, but with the expectation of, like you have a child who's going to be in college. You have a child that's going to start driving. You have a good marriage now that you want for many, many, many years. So everything that you said actually is protecting that, is the growth mindset of with respect to yourself and with the understanding that what you do matters. What you do matters. I know from many of the things that you've said and published is that there is a high degree of grace and forgiveness for yourself also. And I think that is a very, very beautiful thing. I know that as women, we hold something we did, 15 years against us. We made one mistake on a call and we still remember that in the middle of the night. So I would like to include that in our life as we are living our career, having our marriages, raising our children. And for women who aren't married and women who don't have children, they are just as important to our department, just as important to our community, and just as important as individuals. But I think everything that we've said still holds true to that.
Yeah.
But I know that you are on a short time today. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I just, I love this platform because I think that so often we shy away from empowering women because we're scared that men will try to disempower us
Yes.
through that conversation. And that's just not the case, man. The more I've spoken up about what I need and I want, the more men I've had support me through it.
Absolutely.
And it was that fear of not being heard and not being valued and being looked at as different. And it's okay to be different. I think that's what we really have to hold on to in this change of a profession, that bringing in so many different people will allow us to be the best versions of ourselves. You only know one thing. If you only grew up in a house of racists, you're going to be a racist, right? Or potentially, like, that's what to hate, or you know to hate people based on certain criterias. But if you grow up in a home of open-mindedness and love, where they accept people for who they are and they don't come into any kind of relationship or meeting with preconceived notions about who somebody should be, then that's how you're going to be. So, that's two very huge extremes. But, I talk about things all the time, and how, when George Floyd happened, how my policing style, and it's very hard for me to say out loud because I am still embarrassed that I let myself get there. But when George Floyd happened, I started to police different because I was worried that if I pulled somebody over and they were Black, even though I had probable cause to do so, and because it wasn't, it was based on, a moving violation or whatever, that I would have to get in this whole conversation that it would be like, oh, you're only doing this because I'm Black. Like, this fear of not knowing and not know. So if you don't speak up and you don't live your true self and you don't allow yourself to learn about others and accept people for who they are and balance, that's their opinion and that's their right. And you can disagree without hating each other. Like, imagine what this world could be. It was just, again, it's, we're in this huge political arena right now with everything going on. And I mean, I'll personally say, I don't just want a woman in office. I want the right woman in office. I
Yeah.
don't necessarily fall all the way Republican, all the way Democrat. I won't sit here. I get very frustrated when with the debate that happens between the former president and the current president, because neither of them talked about anything of value. It was just them going at each other. And that is the most immature thing I could ever see between people who are supposed to be the
Lead
leaders
our
of
country.
the country.
Yeah.
And it bothers me when people automatically, when everything happened with the women, when former President Trump was there was the attempted assassination. I was so bothered by everybody going automatically to the fact like this is because she's a woman. No, what you don't know is that that woman that jumped right in front, she was the only one there that was part of the Secret Service out of the women. Almost everybody else there, because they pulled over 10 Secret Service agents to go to Biden's, were all Homeland Security who barely got briefed. And the one girl who crouched down did exactly what she was supposed to do. She maintained a little bit of space in order to keep what we consider cover in order to have a better peripheral vision. And we haven't had an assassination on a president since Ronald Reagan. So if there's any person out there that wants to sit there and wants to compare anything that they've been to or been a part of in the same arena as what just happened, take a step back, slow your roll, self-evaluate why you feel the need to put someone else down instead of being a part of the solution, because you are a part of the problem. And a lot of people took some things that I said to heart, thinking that I was saying that like we should just keep hiring women and don't hold them accountable. No, hire the right people, but don't blame it on them just being women, because I guarantee you the people that trained them were men. So you want to go to the heart of the problem? Like, let's just keep going. Let's stop basing it on making fun of other people and stop putting other people down, because that's not going to do anything. It's so easy to get behind this keyboard and to create a meme and to keep pushing all the rhetoric of putting other people down. Like even with the boxer from, and I'm going to mess it up because now I have ADHD brain. So, and I ate a million things, but the one boxer, she was either from like Siberia or wherever, don't quote me, but yeah, she had more masculine features about her. Right. But like you have no proof that everybody just spun this whole web of lies about her when she really is a woman. Like, so the men that have to take testosterone shots because their T levels are down, does that make them more feminine? Should they not be fighting in a minute? Like, this is the thing. There's so many people that want to turn around and they want to point fingers. They want a better world, but they create more problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want peace, but they start wars. And it doesn't make sense to me. Like, you are a little person if the easiest thing for you is to turn around and make fun of somebody. Like when they made fun of Trump's son, or they made fun of this Homeland Security agent, or when they're making fun of Kamala Harris, like there's no need for it. Debate the topics, understand the opinions, but stop putting people down. It doesn't make you look better. So I just totally went on a rant because
it's good.
at the very foundation of it, like that's who we are as women. We put others down. We push women down in order to get higher when they don't realize that, women empower other women, little girls compete. There's a big difference. So I am very much for the women empowerment. But again, there's a lot of men that help me put me up on this pedestal here that is a captain. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't have gotten here without the three great men that I work alongside.
And I think that is so important to understand. It's so, so important. We had a big retiree luncheon here in Dallas, and there was 203 people there. The majority of them were older white males with their wives. And then there's the younger ones that are coming in. And last year was my first year going, and we went this year. And my goal is to get more of the younger retirees in and to get more women there. And I was taking pictures of all the women, and I didn't even get all of them, but I got a lot of them. But I was sitting at a table and our chief was speaking, and our chief is like a badass. I mean, he's like super, super cool, right? He's exactly what Dallas needs. And he wore long sleeves because he has tattoos up and down his arms. And he said, I wore my long sleeve uniform out of respect for the group because, I know that none of you want tattoos, that whole big story, right? Because you can't be a cop and have tattoos. So that got a conversation going at our table. And I was able to say, we are in a room here with people who didn't want women hired 30 years ago. Not all of them, but many of the people there didn't want women hired, right? So that's how far we've come. We have come so far that we can I need to learn to do that. I need to learn to send messages on my watch. I don't know how to do that.
You can tell that I'm doing that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And it's okay. I don't even know how to do it yet. I answered the phone on it the other day for the first time, and I'm like, hold on, I don't know what I'm doing. But
My lieutenant got me coffee, so he just sent me a message, and I didn't want to ignore him, but he was like knocking on the thing, and I was
no,
ignoring
no,
him.
do it, real life. But just real quick, but we were something that 30 years ago, we never thought that we would be at a retiree function, right? And there was more women of color there than there was the year before. And I'm like, this is what we need. It's only going to happen if we do it. It's only going to happen if we do it. And there are men there.
You want to say hi?
Absolutely, get your coffee.
Come say hi. Come say hi. This is my favorite lieutenant. Say hi.
Oh, let's say hi.
Just hi.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? How you doing?
Hey, Poppy. He got me coffee.
I'm gonna keep this in. I'm gonna keep this in the video.
And he got me Splenda because he knows me so well. Gracias.
Good stuff. Good stuff for you.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm grateful for you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you, sir. Nice meeting you. But you know, we're the ones who have to make the changes. And then we have to, there were men in that room that didn't want women hired, but some of those same men became some of our biggest backers. and
Yeah.
some of our best trainers. So we might be raised in homes that don't support women and doing anything. We might live in communities. We might have even thought that for a long, long time. But you know, it can change. My minor was in women's studies in college, and I just couldn't believe, and that was back in the 80s, right? And there were women who still couldn't get credit cards. There were people based on the color of their skin who couldn't open up bank accounts and couldn't get home insurance.
Yeah.
We've come so far. But anyway, you and I
I'm dealing with the fact that my son is being discriminated against for being a male with me putting him on my car insurance when a year earlier my daughter is half the price. Like, why are we not fighting both sides of it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so great discussion.
Yes. I'm going to keep the whole thing. I'm not going to edit
Okay.
anything. Everything's going to be on here.
No, I love that because again, it's like, you know, I transferred into this agency a year ago, and you know, Javi is a prime example of somebody who really had lost his passion for being at work, and you know, didn't really feel like he had much purpose, wasn't pushed, and he's a very smart individual. And you know, his relationship and my relationship is just this. There is just this love, and some of us don't experience that our entire career. And now I work in an agency where we were 18 people down when I started almost a year ago. My 1 year anniversary is September 1st here, and they only had 2 women. We now have 10 women, and we're about to have one that retires. We now have 10 women out of 42 officers. We're almost at, you know, what is that? 25%, almost. It was 25% of, you know, our entire agency population being female, and they're great females. Like all the women that we hired in here all transferred from other agencies, and almost all the men, or we put a couple through the academy, but it's like they couldn't hold on to people. And so when I was brought in, you know, you said it before, there's this focus on recruitment, but if you're not retaining people, you're wasting your time recruiting people. So we focus very much on building relationships and understanding people, and really focusing on explaining the why behind the do, because we're into that generation now, and just giving people value and understanding that people really do need to be heard and understood, and find where their role is, and not have an expectation of everybody being the same. But you know, Javi's just a perfect example of how connection, especially female connection from a supervisor that does it right. I hope I'm doing it right. I think he's proof that I'm doing something right. There's this, like, we miss each other, you know, Monday mornings, it's this big hug, and I love you and I miss you, and you know, we know about each other's families, and we ask, and that's the heart of this thin blue line family that so many people have forgotten about. But I'm on a mission to bring it back. So yeah.
You know what? I can tell you again, I know that I made a lot of mistakes. I know that there were times when I was punished for speaking my mind, but it was never like, oh, this is my opinion. It's like, this is the right thing. I mean, this is what the community needs. This is what my officers need. This is state law. I mean, you know, we're state law, we're cops, we got to follow state law. But to this day, I still, and I sound like I'm bragging, but that's not my point. My point is to try to support your statement. I still, to this day, have officers come up to me or text me or message me on Facebook and say, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for helping my wife when she was in trouble. Thank you for stopping me from what I was doing. thank you. You know, I mean, it isn't like, thank you for the great car chase. It wasn't, thank you for the good foot chase, because we used to chase the hell out of cars here in Dallas. But
Yeah.
it wasn't any of that stuff. It was basically the human side of it. It was the human side and believing in people. I have people who I can't tell you their names. I recognize them, and we have, you know, a lot of people, but they're like, 8 years ago in class, you believed in me. And I'm like, and I tell them, I'm like, thank you. You have no idea what that means. Because when you retire, every mistake you ever made is played over and over and over. Everything that you did wrong, every time somebody said something to you that you knew was like a fucking slap in the face, you remember it, right?
Yeah.
So hear those positive things, it's like, thank you, because it's worthwhile again. And, you know, bringing women over and helping your lieutenant, and it matters. And it doesn't just matter to them, it matters to their families.
Yeah. Agreed.
Families. So, okay, I know you have to go save your part of the world. I am going to send me, please, the contact information that you want me to put in the notes,
Okay.
whatever it is.
It's easy. It's empoweredpolicing.com. Empowered, like I want people empowered, not and empowering. But anybody can find me on Instagram. It's Heather_empowered_policing. So super easy.
Perfect.
It's easy. Yeah.
And I would love to have more conversations with you. I would love to also get into some of the really hard struggles that you've had.
Yeah. I love that.
Okay. And I will see you in a couple weeks. I'm MC.
I know. I'm so excited.
Hug you.
I'll see you then. Thanks so
Okay.
much.